And now, 1160 AM KBDT proudly presents Life Solutions, coaching, counseling, naturopathic medicine, insights for successful living, and getting better with Beal.
Welcome to this beautiful Thanksgiving season day. We are in Dallas, Texas, and I am on 1160 AM KBDT News, Talk, and Sports. I am here on the Getting Better Show. I'm your host, Beal, and I am joined today by a man who I hope empowers you, inspires you, and just intrigues you. I actually wanted to have him on last week for Veterans Day, but of course he's always busy on Veterans Day. It makes total sense. His name is Mr. Carl Ford Jr., and he is a wonderful man. He served as Assistant Secretary of State for Intelligence and Research for George W. Bush during his presidency. He actually served right under Colin Powell, who was Secretary of State. And he is joining us today so that if you've ever wondered what it would be like to be in intelligence for the federal government, or you wonder how you can get into intelligence with the federal government, he is going to share about it today, what it was like serving with George Bush and even his dad, George H.W. Bush. And Carl, just welcome to the show today.
Well, thank you very much, Ann. It's always good to hear from you.
Well, you heard my intro to inspire people. I know that just from talking to you, I did have you on before, and you shared all about how you became in intelligence and becoming the Secretary of State, Assistant Secretary of State, not Secretary of State. It was such an intriguing show. If anyone's interested, you can go back and listen to that. You can just Google Carl Ford and Beal, or you can go to, I actually am going to post it on the Facebook page today after the show on Getting Better with Beal on Facebook. Or you can even go to voiceamerica.com and put in my name, Beal, and you will find that show. So Carl, today, I do want you to let them know a little bit about how you got where you are and a little bit of your background.
Well, I appreciate it, Ann. I started off born and raised in Hot Springs, Arkansas. I think it's the smallest national park, but it's a beautiful place, and I loved it here. And when I got ready to go to college, my parents, I was the first one in my extended family that had ever gone to college, and they, quite frankly, couldn't afford it. And I had a wonderful great aunt and uncle who in Florida, in Tallahassee, that actually adopted me so that I could move to Tallahassee and wouldn't have to pay out-of-state tuition. And I lived with them, and I went to college for a couple of years, and I decided that I had thumbed through that catalog so many times looking for a major that I wasn't quite sure that college was for me. So after my second year, I quit and I joined the Army. Probably the best decision I've ever made in my life. 19 years old, and I didn't know what the world was like, but I quickly found out.
It is crazy how young, 19. That was very enlightening, I'm sure.
Right. Well, I didn't know what I was going to get into, but I wanted to be airborne infantry, and I ended up in the infantry, but I qualified because on tests, because I went to OCS, and I became an officer, and I stayed in the Army, a couple of tours in Vietnam, and I was in the Army a total of 10 years. And after my first tour in Vietnam, I got out and went back to school. And by this time I was married, and I had the GI Bill and a wife that was a elementary school teacher, and she put me through college. So I ended up with graduating from Florida State with a bachelor in Asian Studies and a master's degree in East Asian Studies. And I know my mother-in-law kept always asking me, what are you going to do with Asian Studies?
Yeah.
Well, I I went back in the Army for my second tour, and but instead of being infantry, I transferred to intelligence, and went to area officer, area intelligence school. I went back to Vietnam and was there for a year and did intelligence in Vietnam. And then I had my dream job. I came back from Vietnam and went to the Defense Intelligence Agency, and I was a China ground force officer. I did the order of battle for the Chinese Army, and that's what I'd done in college. That's what I loved, and I gave CIA so much of a hard time. They were our competitors at the time, and after 4 years at DIA, they asked me to leave the Army and go to CIA. So I moved to CIA, and I continued to do China. It was just a wonderful group of people, excellent opportunity to do analysis, and that all went well until I was selected for a congressional fellowship from CIA. And I went down and I worked for probably one of the greatest men America's ever produced, John Glenn, the astronaut. And I worked for him for 6 months, and he said, you know, Carl, I want you to stay here. It ended up, I left CIA and joined him on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, again, doing East Asia. And I stayed with Senator Glenn for 6 years, one of the most fun, interesting, challenging things that I'd ever done before. As a young guy from Arkansas, I never had imagined I would be on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. But Senator Glenn ran for president and lost, and told me, they said, Carl, I'm going to move to the Armed Services Committee, and if you'd like to, I'll help you get a job if you'd like. And I said, well, that'd be great. And so I went back to CIA as the National Intelligence Officer for East Asia. And I would every time I'd see my mother-in-law, I'd say, you know, what are you going to do with Asian studies? Right. And so at CIA as the National Intelligence Officer, and my time on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, I really, one of the keys to success in anything is who you know. And I got to meet a lot of very capable, wonderful people, and at some point they invited me, I was at CIA, and President Bush was elected president, Bush the elder, and I was invited as a CIA officer to go down to the Department of Defense and work for who later became Vice President, Secretary Cheney. And I did, for the first 2 years of the Bush administration, I did East Asia. And then after the Gulf War, Secretary Cheney asked me to move over, and I started for the first time doing Middle East work. And so I was traveling all throughout the Middle East, Israel, Egypt, Jordan, various places, and fell in love with the Middle East. And it was just an exciting time. It was after the Gulf War, and people probably have forgotten now, but there was in Iraq, there were the people who lived in Iraq that were the Kurdish people, and there was a provide comfort exercise by the U.S. Army, U.S. Air Force as well, and I was able to go to Iraq a couple of times. So just all kinds of experiences working at the Pentagon. Was the first time I'd been in the Oval Office. One of the Minister of Defense came to Washington, and I accompanied him and I accompanied him to the White House to meet with President Bush. And so I decided that as a CIA officer, I'd done everything, been everything, and so I left CIA, retired, opened up my own international consulting firm, and I specialize mostly in East Asia, Korea, Japan, Taiwan, helping Lockheed Martin in Fort Worth and Boeing and other companies, help them with their selling of equipment, military equipment overseas. And loved it. Would have kept in business for about 7, almost 8 years when General Powell, who called and asked if I would join him at the State Department. So I came back in government as the Assistant Secretary of State for Intelligence and Research. Probably, I think it's it's clearly the smallest of the 17 intelligence agencies, but it's probably, in my mind, it's a group of people that are more experienced. It's a treasure, national treasure to work at INR. It's called. The people there are just quite brilliant, and they made my job easy. And I stayed there until after the second Iraq War was over, and the intelligence community had done such a lousy job on the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq. I wanted to speak out. I wanted to say that it wasn't President Bush's fault in particular. It was our fault. We in the intelligence community had messed up. And so I left the intelligence community and testified before various committees and started teaching school at Georgetown, which was an exciting time at this School of Foreign Service. And then I got another teaching assignment at the same time at George Mason in Northern Virginia, teaching intelligence. And so here from a small town in Arkansas, I was at the right place at the right time, very lucky. Unlike my mother-in-law, I really did something with Asian studies. It made all the difference in terms of being there and meeting people and having a specialty that not everybody had. So, long-winded answer to your question, Ann. Us old guys, they could call me Mr. Windy, I guess.
Well, but that road to the White House is usually one that takes a while. And I think it's awesome that you went into an area of study that most people don't go into. But that's also what made you so valuable, right?
Well, I think so. I would tell any young person that a language capability is very important if you want to go into government service, particularly in intelligence. And don't be a generalist, be a specialist. Learn something that you are very good at and enjoy, and as you get promoted, then you can become more of a generalist. But unless you've been a specialist, unless you have really got down in the weeds on some particular subject, I don't care whether it's Asia or whether it's the Middle East, you're really going to become valuable to people.
Well, and I think that's such good advice to let, because I want people empowered to see how they can do that too, to live their dreams. You lived your dream and you reached it. So when we come back, I'd like you to tell everyone what it was like being with Colin Powell and George Bush.
Have to.
Life Solutions Coaching and Counseling in Hazlet, Texas is a full-service wellness clinic providing individual, group, and family counseling, one-on-one coaching for life and wellness, and naturopathic treatments of medical massage therapy combined with essential oils to ensure you reach your health and wellness goals. Sessions are available in person or by phone. Get started on your new life today. Just call 817-232-1363 or go to LifeSolutionsCoachingandCounseling.com or email them at lifesolutioncc@yahoo.com.
This is a national health alert from the Healthcare Hotline. Are you on Medicare and or have private insurance and suffer from back pain? MD Topical has a solution for you. Today, you can qualify to receive a pain-relieving treatment, such as a comfortable back brace or a customized pain treatment at little or no cost. Call MD Topical toll-free now, 888-998-7225. It just takes a couple of minutes to qualify for these amazing treatments that have helped thousands of people with severe pain. Your personalized pain treatment will be delivered directly to your door. Call MD Topical toll-free, 888-998-7225, 888-998-7225, or go to mdtopical.com and get started on your road to a pain-free life. Call MD Topical toll-free, 888-998-7225, or go to mdtopical.com.
Do you want to look 10 years younger? At Total Med Solutions, we have solutions to help you look and feel great. Try our Botox special with 20 units for only $173, or replace your lip volume that you've lost over the years with a 1 milliliter syringe of Juvederm dermal filler for as little as $389.
Do you want to lose 10, 20, even 100 pounds? Ask the experts at Total Med Solutions, where they provide physician-supervised prescription weight loss solutions for as little as $199 for a 30-day program.
Are you tired of shaving? Come to Total Med Solutions, where you can get beach ready with laser hair removal starting at only $99 for 6 sessions. All laser hair procedures are done on the latest Almost Soprano ice machines that work great for all skin types.
Call Total Med Solutions at 972-992-5040 to schedule your appointment. Consultations are always free.
Just check it out. Again, that number is 972-992-5040.
Hey, I'm Brant. So there's this guy named Jordan. He's a healthy guy. He's a dad of 6, and he works as a guide in Alaska. And he goes to the doctor, true story. He goes to the doctor, and he's diagnosed with cancer, stage 4. And here's the thing. He had switched earlier from medical insurance to Medishare, where Christians share each other's medical bills. So the question for Jordan and his wife, Jenny, was, is this actually going to work?
Our medical bills exceeded $160,000. Medishare members shared all our bills.
And it was about more than just the money, too. This is a real community.
Medishare is a family, a group of people that stick with you through the hardest times of your life. I just don't know how I could have done it without Medishare.
It's so worth looking into. There's a reason this is growing so fast. So if you want to find out more, here is a number for you, 855-90-PSALM. That's 855-90-PSALM.
The following update is for drivers who pay too much for car insurance due to DUIs, DWIs, tickets, or anything else. Our company specializes in low-cost SR22 auto insurance. We know that mistakes happen and offer free quotes for very affordable auto insurance meant specifically for you, the overpaying high-risk driver. The quote is free, and we'll handle the filing so you can start saving money. Call 800-758-0725. 800-758-0725. 800-758-0725.
To admit it's getting better, a little better all the time.
If you'd like to get better, call Ann right now. 214-810-8255. 214-810-TALK. Now more with Ann Beal on 1160 AM KBDT.
Carl Ford, Assistant Secretary of State for the intelligence community working under George Bush. He was actually appointed by George Bush. He was actually sharing with us, even working with the CIA with George Sr., and filled us in on how the road and the path he took to become where he was heading up an intelligence agency. Carl, that is such a fascinating story. I did have some questions about working with John Glenn. What in the world was that like?
Well, Sarah Glenn was more like an uncle to me than he was an employer. He just was a very, for those of people as my age who remember him from television and from the time when he was an astronaut or when he was a senator, he was exactly the same in person as he was when he was on TV. He was just a very kind, thoughtful, intelligent man who married his high school sweetheart, Annie Glenn. They're both from Zanesville, Ohio, and of all of his accomplishment, he was still just a real guy. Great sense of humor. My favorite story about Senator Glenn was
Carl,
going along with it.
Carl, I want to ask you, your phone are you on your cell phone?
Well, my home phone is
Okay, because it sounded like it's cutting out a lot, so I wasn't sure if your battery was low but this is your home phone?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Oh, that sounds good. It was just
okay.
maybe.
Well, maybe I wasn't speaking clearly enough into the microphone. But in any event, my favorite Senator Glenn story was I had the opportunity and the privilege to travel with him to Jordan. He, as you know, was a pilot. And when King Hussein of Jordan came to Washington, D.C. on a visit, the president, I think it was President Carter, if I'm not mistaken, gave him the job of taking the king and visiting the Air and Space Museum in D.C. And both of them being pilots, they hit it off. And the king said to the senator, if he ever came to Jordan, please let him know. And he wanted to have him out for dinner or for lunch. So I just happened to be on the trip when the senator went on his first trip back to Jordan. And we went out and went to what was called the King's Summer Palace. Quite frankly, it looked like one of the homes around the golf course in Dallas. It was not all that palatial, but it was very, very quite spectacular.
Well, and
as we got out of the car, the king's wife, Princess Noor, was a family friend of the Glens. I hadn't known that, and she ran up and hugged the senator, and then she ran back up the stairs and she said, "I can't be at the lunch, but I just wanted to give you a hug." Apparently, she had grown up with the Glen kids when they would go on vacation out in Colorado. But in any event, we walked in, and there was the king and about, I guess, 15 or 20 people. And as I recall, it was every time the king would move an inch, it was like bees, or all the bees would move with him. You know, it was just like they were attached to him in some way.
Wow.
And so just as we got there, he said, someone came up and he said to the senator, "Listen, I've just got a call I have to take. I'll be right back. Go ahead and sit down, and I'll be back in just a second." Well, he left, and we assumed that some of the bees would stay with us. But in fact, just as the king left, every one of the bees went with him. And so we were there, and we looked at this table that had been laid out for lunch, and it was really a table fit for a king. The only thing I could see there were these gold goblets on the table. And I kept thinking to myself, I wonder if I could get that in my suitcase.
Wow.
And we sat down, and all of a sudden I heard, "Carl." And I looked over, and this United States senator, astronaut, great guy, had taken a solid gold plate and put it down in his pants.
No.
And I said, "Sir, you better get that out of there." He pulled it out and put it back on the table. And just as it hit the table, here came the king and all his bees. And I said later, "Sir, we missed the international incident by seconds." But that was the kind of guy he was. A real great sense of humor. Was certainly someone who was a national hero, and someone who, as you could tell by my own experiences, someone who I think all Americans should know more about.
All right. Stay right here. You guys next.
Hamilton was adopted from a rescue in 2008. He really likes to be around people. I get out my mat and I'm doing a downward dog and he's underneath. He's quite the pug about town. He gets invited to a lot of parties. He knows he's a pretty big deal. Look at this little face. How could you not love him?
Hamilton the Pug, Instagram star, and shelter pet. Amazing adoption stories start in shelters. Visit theshelterpetproject.org to find a pet near you.
Brought to you by Maddie's Fund, the Humane Society of the United States, and the Ad Council.
Hello golfers, Pat Wheeler here. Are you buying or selling real estate in today's whiskey hot market? Then call a pro. Call James Christie of Dave Perry Miller Real Estate. He's called Realtor Jim, and Realtor Jim will take care of business, your business. He helped me find a condo 2 years ago that I still love. Call Realtor Jim today at 972-365-4401. Realtor Jim, 972-365-4401.
Every hiring manager knows that a company is only as good as the people it's made from. So where do you find the best people? That may surprise you.
Meet the grads of life. Young adults of unique determination and experience. An ideal fit for your company in an entry-level position, internship, or even mentorship. They might not have every qualification you typically look for, but they're exactly who your company needs.
This is talent worth knowing about.
Go to gradsoflife.org to learn how to find, cultivate, and train this great pool of untapped talent. Brought to you by the Ad Council and gradsoflife.org.
If you're over the age of 50 and considering buying an annuity in the next 60 days, I have some important news for you. Don't buy an annuity until you understand the pros and cons of annuities. A free book to help you maximize your retirement income from television host and three-time author Josh Melberg has been released. This book reveals little-known truths about annuity strategies in simple-to-understand terms. Grab a pen right now because we are about to offer you this free book that unlocks the 5 little-known secrets we believe baby boomers and seniors should know before buying an annuity. Call 800-985-1813 now, and you'll receive a free copy of Josh Milberg's book, Next Gen Annuity Strategies Revealed. As a bonus, we'll also send you a copy of The #1 Mistakes Retirees Are Making with Their Investments Today, and a free DVD on how you can get up to 33% more income in retirement. Call 800-985-1813 now. Again, that's 800-985-1813. Employees of J.D. Melberg Financial have the appropriate licenses for the products they offer.
Wake up the echoes. The Fighting Irish.
Tell them to go in there with all they've got and win just one for the game.
So we understand that adversity is what we look for. Because in adversity, there's opportunity.
Glory awaits. Notre Dame football lives here.
Don't miss number 3 in the nation, Notre Dame, as they take on number 12, Syracuse. Today at 1:30 p.m. on your Dallas-Fort Worth home for Notre Dame football. 1160 a.m. KBDT.
To admit it's getting better, a little better all the time.
You're getting better all the time. Now back to Ann Beal on 1160 a.m. KBDT.
Welcome back. We are having a wonderful conversation with Assistant Secretary of State under Colin Powell for George Bush, Dr. Carl Ford Jr. Carl, I enjoyed so much that story about King Jordan. Tell me that our people didn't really steal the gold, that they put the gold plate back.
He put the gold plate back just as they came back into the room. I can still see the smile on his face.
So he was just goofing around.
Oh, of course. That just gives you a sense of what a great sense of humor he had. He was very serious when he had to be, but he also had a big smile and a wonderful personality.
So the King of Jordan wasn't that scary.
No, not at all. And they continued to be fast friends. Something about being pilots, they just hit it right off and continued to be friends as long as I knew the senator.
Well, and then you ended up, so you actually worked with George H.W. Bush Sr. Is that when you were in the CIA?
I was at CIA when President Reagan was president. And then when I was working for the elder Bush, when I went to the Pentagon and Secretary Cheney was Secretary of Defense. And it was at that point that I got to meet the elder Bush, and who I had great respect for. I was very disappointed that he was not reelected for a second term. He was a very fine president, I thought. One of those great generation, the people who had been in World War II. I don't know how many people remember, but President Bush, the elder, was shot down in the Pacific and had to be rescued. He was a pilot in World War II. And then, of course, I got to work for his son when I was at the Department of State. He was, Secretary Powell was my immediate boss, but Secretary Powell worked for, of course, the president. And I got to observe Secretary Powell and the president and the sort of decision-making that went on during the Iraq War.
Well, and I met Colin Powell at the SAID Summit. He was so friendly and nice. A lot of his questions were already prepared ahead of time for him, so I didn't get any real free time to really question him, but I got to visit with him and Deepak Chopra. They were hanging out together, and that was really a neat experience. I know for you, like when you think of George Bush Sr. and the son, how are they different?
You know, it's hard to talk about differences. I mean, I think that what a lot of people don't seem to recognize is how smart the son was. I mean, how many times have you heard people say that this President Bush the younger wasn't all that bright? Well, that's, from my perspective, they just simply don't know what they're talking about. He was clearly very smart. He also was very decisive in making decisions. You might not like some of the decisions he made, but clearly he was not being controlled by Rumsfeld or by Cheney or by anybody else. He was his own person. And among that cast of characters, Rumsfeld, Cheney, Powell, I mean, those are very powerful people. And he was not certainly overshadowed at all by all of the talent and experience around him. He simply took advantage of that and used them for advisors. But in the end, he was the one that made the decisions.
Well, and I think the difference with George Bush Jr. is that he grew up around powerful people.
And around politics.
Yeah, and so he would have been,
He helped in the campaign that his father ran, and much more than his brother, who was in politics and state politics, but it was the President Bush who had been the most involved in the family's politics up until that point.
I'm always amazed, you know, Yale, first of all, is a very hard school to go to, and Harvard. And these people that graduate from Yale and Harvard, they are smart people. But, you know, I think that they always make out Republican presidents to be stupid. And, you know, like Joe Biden, he made D's in law school, and it took him 6 times to pass the bar. I mean, and those are all hard. Lots of people, it takes them a long time, you know, more than 1 time to pass the bar. But I think that when they were calling George Bush stupid, and I heard that too. It was crazy. I'm like, this guy went to Yale, and you know, he is an incredible man. So that's good to hear. So for you, there was a lot of difference between the two, the dad and the son.
There was. I mean, I maybe it was because I was younger, but I saw the elder Bush as being very, very, very quiet, very sober, very decisive, but and the son was a little bit. He seemed to have a much greater sense of, and I didn't get to see them up close all that much, but I got to observe their decision making, and in that case, I think that they were both very much the same. That is, that they listened to the people around them, got their input, and then decided the best course of action. And once they were, the one thing about President Bush the elder that I was very, very impressed with is that he was very, when he made a decision, you knew that he had thought it through and was making a decision after very serious thought. He was a very powerful thinker. Very, the people around him. I never heard anybody say his first name, for example. Even Jim Baker, who was one of his very close friends and had gone hunting with, it was never using his name. It was always Mr. President. When, the cabinet officials in most administrations view the president in a very, represents a position, something, a historical thing that they honor very much. And so the president is always Mr. President. You always wear a suit and tie when you go into the Oval Office. I mean, it's a special role that any American can hold, and that is the President of the United States. It makes people better than themselves, I think. They want to do. They've grown up like all of us have, looking up to the president, and when they're there, boy, it's a special time, and being even close to the people who make decisions is a very exciting and interesting thing.
Well, and
sometimes a little scary.
I was wondering that because working with the Bushes, the media did kind of make the dad, seem weaker than Ronald Reagan, and they said that he just came into power because of Reagan, and so they didn't really talk much about his strengths and his strength of character and his strength, being a strong man, even a tough man. They made him kind of,
Well, remember that for the first Iraq War, there was an attack by Iraq into Kuwait, and I know I was at the Pentagon at the time, and everyone that I talked to, in the military side or on the Secretary of Defense side, all were assuming that we would take it to the United Nations or make a statement about it. And if you remember, President Bush said, "This will not stand." And it surprised everybody, particularly in the Pentagon. We're going to go to war. It had not been what most people had been thinking. We thought that we'd find an excuse not to take any action. But he had seen what had happened in World War II when you appease a dictator. And so I think that more than anything, that experience of his own experience said, "Listen, we can't let this go. We have to do something." But he was very decisive. He surprised everybody, and of course, then we had one of the large build-up, but a very short war. As you remember, the Iraqis were just. They were surrendering to news people and helicopters,
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think, the difference with the second Iraq War, I know that I read the book Hubris. One of your friends, Jeff Meek, gave me that book. And you said that the intelligence was wrong, and that we misunderstood. I think maybe do you think that they got bad intelligence from our people over there, or did we listen to bad intelligence from their people?
Well, I think that it's there was a study after the war that was done by some experts, and I remember that one of the first things they said in their summary of what happened was that the intelligence community was dead wrong. It wasn't President Bush. It wasn't Vice President Cheney. It wasn't even Defense Secretary Rumsfeld. It was we told the president that the Iraqis' nuclear weapons program had restarted, and that was wrong. And my little small group of people actually tried to tell people that it was wrong, but we were small. The big guys said it was that they had restarted the weapons program. We said they weren't. It was a sort of he said, and we lost. But I was always proud of my people who stood up for what they believed in, and even though everybody else was saying that Iraq had restarted the nuclear weapons program, my specialists were saying, no, that's not the case, and here's why. Unfortunately, they weren't listened to. But
and they are.
overall,
You said there were 7. You told me yesterday when we talked again that there are 17 different intelligence agencies, and
yes.
so they were all were they all involved in that? Because I think it just sounds like, how could they all be so wrong?
Well, because part of it is that we had simply gotten away from doing research. We were looking only at sort of the news. Everybody had become sort of a classified New York Times or Fox News. It was not in-depth study. We had made the mistake of getting away from that. And so that the intelligence community was very confident, CIA, DIA in particular, the two big ones. They were telling the president, as you remember, the director of CIA, and the famous quote of, "It's a slam dunk, Mr. President."
Who said that?
It wasn't that the politicians were telling us just something to go to war about. No. The intelligence community went to them after 9/11 and said, "Oh, by the way, Mr. President, they've restarted their nuclear weapons program." And I said at the time, it was like throwing a piece of red meat out on the table and saying to the president, "Okay, Mr. President, what are you going to do about that?" So
I understand. Well, and that is fascinating. And I think that Colin Powell said some things that were taken and run with the whole thing. That's why the book is so incredible. So when you come back, we are going to talk more about just kind of what's going on now. So you guys stay right here and we'll listen to Carl's opinion on all that.
Life Solutions Coaching and Counseling in Hazlet, Texas is a full-service wellness clinic providing individual, group, and family counseling, one-on-one coaching for life and wellness, and naturopathic treatments of medical massage therapy combined with essential oils to ensure you reach your health and wellness goals. Sessions are available in person or by phone. Get started on your new life today. Just call 817-232-1363 or go to LifeSolutionsCoachingandCounseling.com or email them at lifesolutionscc@yahoo.com.
This is a national health alert from the Healthcare Hotline. Are you on Medicare and or have private insurance and suffer from back pain? MD Topical has a solution for you. Today, you can qualify to receive a pain-relieving treatment, such as a comfortable back brace or a customized pain treatment at little or no cost. Call MD Topical toll-free now, 888-998-7225. It just takes a couple of minutes to qualify for these amazing treatments that have helped thousands of people with severe pain. Your personalized pain treatment will be delivered directly to your door. Call MD Topical toll-free, 888-998-7225, 888-998-7225, or go to mdtopical.com and get started on your road to a pain-free life. Call MD Topical toll-free, 888-998-7225, or go to mdtopical.com.
The following update is for drivers who pay too much for car insurance due to DUIs, DWIs, tickets, or anything else. Our company specializes in low-cost SR22 auto insurance. We know that mistakes happen and offer free quotes for very affordable auto insurance meant specifically for you, the overpaying high-risk driver. The quote is free, and we'll handle the filing so you can start saving money. Call 800-758-0725. 800-758-0725. 800-758-0725.
With a recession ending, if you've been putting off building your business, now is the time to act. General Steel will meet or beat any price on a pre-engineered steel building of the same size and specifications. Act now before steel prices go up. So call us today for free information.
Call 800-965-1290. 800-965-1290. 800-965-1290. Were you scammed into signing a timeshare contract? And did you miss the part that said you have to pay for your great idea? Not only for the rest of your life, but when you're not here anymore, you get to pass this turkey onto your family for them to pay for the rest of their lives. Thanks, Dad. Don't burden your family down the road, and don't be stuck with expensive timeshare payments forever. Get out of your bad idea timeshare contract guaranteed, or pay nothing. Call Resort Release today and learn for free how their timeshare exit team can help you legally exit your timeshare contract. They've helped thousands of people, and they're A+ rated with a BBB. So if you feel scammed, get mad and get out of your expensive timeshare contract right now, guaranteed. Call NOW.
800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. 800-455-7967. That's 800-455-7967.
Are you taking Viagra and tired of paying $50 per tablet? Marley Drug has generic Viagra for just $10 per tablet. $10 for generic Viagra is a savings of $40 per dose. Call now and get free shipping on 10 tablets or more of generic Viagra. Marley Drug is a North Carolina pharmacy licensed in all 50 states. For information, go to marleygenerics.com or call us at 800-515-3062. That's 800-515-3062.
To admit it's getting better, a little better all the time.
And now here's more Getting Better with Ann Beal on 1160 AM KBDT.
Carl Ford is going to share with us a little bit about today, kind of the intelligence community, how it's working today, and just what it's like if you're wanting to get into intelligence or work with that. And George Bush actually lives here in Dallas. George W. Bush is here, and they have the George W. Bush Library at SMU, where my daughter graduated, and your daughter graduated too, Carl, right?
Yes. She had a leadership scholarship at SMU, and she took that over a soccer scholarship at the University of Alabama.
Wow. Wow. Are you surprised?
No, she loved Texas. She loved SMU, and it was a good decision for her.
And have you been to the Presidential Library?
Yes, I was there for the opening of the Presidential Library.
Oh,
and it was my wife and I went down, and of course the president was there, and Vice President Cheney was there, and it was really quite.
Yeah, I was there. I just wasn't up where you were. I didn't know you were there. That's so cool. I don't guess I had met you yet. And so it is a wonderful library. I am from Little Rock, and of course the Clinton Library is there. So for people for the Thanksgiving holiday coming up, it would be it's a good thing to take your family to look around. So you went through the library here in Dallas. What did you think of it?
Oh, it was really quite fantastic. I like some of the exhibits.
Okay, you got to move back towards your phone thing so I can hear you better. That was garbled.
Okay, I found it fascinating that there is a replica of the Oval Office there. There is they have an exhibit where you can make decisions and see if you can make the same decisions as the cabinet and the president would make. I mean, I thought that it was really quite well done.
That is amazing because when you think about George W. Bush having to cut, he took in all the intelligence that he could, and then he made decisions based on all that intelligence. And
correct.
And I don't
It
think
just unfortunately we were wrong, or as I said earlier, we were dead wrong.
And how often is the intelligence community wrong? Just curious.
Well, they are right many times, but they are not soothsayers. They are not able to predict the future. Mm-hmm. They're human beings that have a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and give them, the president and other officials, their best judgments of what's going on. Is it always right? No. But it's right more times than it's not, and that's what's important.
Well, and I know on the last show, when I had you on a couple of years ago, we did talk about basically Americans don't need to be afraid, and you really believe we shouldn't live in fear. And the intelligence community and the military are all there to keep us safe. I think that with 9/11 and a lot of the things that happened, it became clear that the intelligence community cannot know everything, not predict the future, and make mistakes. And that's a little scary for the average person, I think. I think their view before that was you guys were kind of all-knowing.
Well, I think that the intelligence community should be more open and honest with people. They cannot read people's minds. They have a lot of information that they can sort through, and the longer they have to work with the information, the better they get. But it's like anything else. I used to tell people that once they take surprise out of the dictionary, then everything will be okay. But you can't. The fact is that surprise is something that is human.
It's human, yes, and I think that's good to remember that even way up there they make mistakes, and but that's part of all the stuff that they're doing. And Carl, we'll have just another short segment when we come back, so you guys stay right here, and we'll just hear a little more before we leave about Carl and Thanksgiving coming up.